Perfect. Well, thanks again for joining us, Spencer. Spencer and I had a really awesome conversation about the product he's building. I think it's coming from a very a place of empathy. It's a little bit different from what we've seen. Obviously everyone who's trying to build something right now is building for a certain reason. I think typically the tools that are kind of coming from more of an empathy standpoint tend to do better, in my opinion, and they're more fun to learn about. So I really appreciate Spencer joining us today to talk about his product. And yeah, True Silo Tank kind of set up today, Spencer. We have our group here. This is our Silo group. Feel free to start off with your pitch. We will have some time in the middle for questions from the group, and then we'll flip it as well, let you ask the group questions. But yeah, whenever you're ready to go ahead and get started.
Yeah, that sounds great. So first of all, thank you so much, Sabrina, for the kind words. I really appreciate it. And thanks you all for taking your time out, taking time out of your day. I know that you are all hiring leaders and recruiting leaders. And so, such an overworked function. So thank you so much for taking time today to chat with me. I'm really excited to talk to you about Soaria. Of all of the conversations that I've had about the product, I think this group is the one that I'm most excited about because I think you all are really going to get it and are really going to appreciate where it's coming from. So, and I think it could really help. So let's just jump in. So I have a deck that I'll jump into, and then I also have a demo that I'll walk you through as well. We just went live a couple of days ago, so I can actually walk you through what's live today and talk to you a little bit more about what's coming. And yeah, so we'll just jump in. So please forgive the anxiety-inducing amount of tabs that I have. I promise I know what they are, but it's a lot. Cool. So just jumping straight in. So hi, I'm Spencer Hardwick, founder and CEO of Soaria. So is everybody able to see this? Okay, it looks like it, but I just want to make sure.
Yes, we can.
Cool. Awesome. So before I talk about what Soaria is, I want to talk to you a little bit about the founding story. So how Soaria came to be. Last summer, late summer, I was laid off rather suddenly from Ticketmaster, just a couple of days short of my 3-year anniversary, and it was really sudden. It was without warning, and I'd already endured multiple 6-month-long plus job searches over the last decade, and I didn't have the emotional bandwidth for that again. I know that everyone in here can probably relate to that, right? Like long job searches, they suck. They suck the soul out of you. They kill your confidence. They're just like the modern job search is just exhausting. And I just couldn't do that again. And so, I wanted to do an experiment. I looked at my job search and I found that, I think the most time consuming and frustrating parts were finding a job that's the right fit. If it takes an hour to apply for a job, 45 minutes of that is just trying to find the right job. And then the rest is like automating the resume and like trying to figure out what ATS is looking for and like how do I align my experience with what the job description's asking for. These parts are the most tedious parts of the experience. So that's where I focused on automating. I wanted to automate finding high fit roles based on my resume, based on my experience, that I would be a good fit for, and then optimizing the resume for it. So I scraped job alerts, I parsed job descriptions, I built a small engine that scored fit and rewrote my resume using a library of my own case studies. And I'm going to come back to this later in the pitch, but the case studies part is really important because as hiring people, I'm sure you can appreciate this. Think about how many different ways different companies describe the same work, right? Think about how many different ways a company could describe cross-functional collaboration or platform product work. Like a role that should be really clearly defined can be described 20 different ways. There's no consistency to any of it. So anchoring on case studies was, I had a hypothesis that in doing that, I could provide a much richer context for the LLM to optimize my resume from. instead of what usually happens, which is just it only has 5 resume bullets to work from, and so it just copies the job description, which the ATS flags for overfitting, and it's a whole problem. And it worked, right? So this engine became a feedback loop. So parse the job description, score fit, optimize the resume, apply, track the outcome. And in doing so, I landed more interviews in 2 weeks than I had in almost 2 years. I landed multiple really high-level interviews with some really big companies, and also had a half dozen recruiter conversations. And it was the first proof that the system could really learn what fit looks like, and that the key to it was language. And it was sort of like a aha moment for me as well, because I figured if it could work for me, it could work for everybody. And I started thinking about like what this could actually mean for hiring. If we had faster matches, less bias, more freedom from the burnout that comes from modern job search, recruiters could be elevated to being career Sherpas like they were, like you all were back in the early days of tech, instead of now just like glorified filters, where people could actually breathe between their job transitions instead of taking on another job while they're during one of the most stressful periods in someone's career. And so that's how Soaria was born. It's a system that turns job search behavior into signal, and it's a transition layer where merit wins over noise. And so I don't need to tell y'all, hiring has collapsed since 2019. Conversion is down. Pipelines are less qualified than they've ever been, but applications per role are skyrocketing. And it's become incredibly inefficient and noisy. And I think it's because AI has created an arms race in hiring. Candidates are using like ChatGPT to apply more often. We've got Easy Apply. It's never been easier to apply for a job, but the quality of those applications is tanking. And you all are having to use AI to try and filter through all of this app search. But the problem is that neither of these AI systems have a shared sense of language. They don't have shared context to connect with each other. So they're just talking past each other, which is what is causing things to fail at the scale that I think that they are. And this is where Soaria comes in. Soaria translates the language of work. It's AI hiring infrastructure that teaches candidates and recruiters to speak the same language. So it captures how candidates actually describe their experience, what they've been successful in doing, the impact that they've had, what they're looking for. And it also captures what they actually apply to. Every application, every interview, every outcome, it all trains the model to recommend better fits. We help candidates describe their experience in language that actually resonates with you all as recruiters, and then you all can use that language to find better fit and reduce your time to hire. So here's how it works. I call it the loop. So we capture candidate experience and behavior. We decode, and on the other end, we decode job descriptions into skill language. So we start mapping all of the different ways that different companies and different verticals and different functions describe different skills. And we start mapping that into one shared framework between candidates and recruiters. And then we use that framework to drive better outcomes for everyone. And then every interaction compounds the graph and teaches Soaria how work is truly described. Like if this really works, Soaria becomes the de facto standard for the language of work. And early results I feel like are compelling. Like I mentioned before, I landed senior product manager interviews at Epic Games, Kroger, and Humana in less than 2 weeks. I also have another friend of mine who was alpha testing and has been interviewing like crazy using the same manual method. We just launched last week. We've got more than 30 signups currently awaiting onboarding right now. We've got a rockstar advisory bench who I'll talk a little bit about more later. And early partnerships with TrueSeek, which is a recruiting agency co-founded by 2 former co-founders from JobBot. One of those co-founders is actually our first investor. So we're backed by career recruiters as well, who really believe in what we're doing. And capital is also validating the space. I'm sure most of the people in this room have at least heard of one of these products, have probably used one of these. There's Juicebox and Jack and Jill specifically have raised absolutely monster rounds, but I feel like they're just attacking symptoms. They're not really addressing the root cause, which is that you know, if you're turning trust and network into access is okay, you know, but that's also sort of gatekeeping, and it is requiring you to be able to know someone, or you know, you've got stuff like Juicebox or Simplify or something like that, that is automating sourcing and screening, but you know, it's creating faster pipelines, but it's not really helping reduce the noise. Soaria, however, comes in and rebuilds the foundation that the rest of hiring can be built from. So I moved this in from the appendix last minute, so it's a little wordy on the page, but the TLDR here, right, is that the initial focus right now is to start driving candidate adoption with curated job feeds and the frictionless apply experience, and start capturing that behavioral data and the outcome data, and validate this core hypothesis that better data it results in higher conversion, which yields stronger matching, which, you know, gives you better quality hiring pipelines. So fewer but better quality applications. And then on the recruiter side, you know, we have two main products that we would offer you. You know, one are enterprise APIs, so like a job description optimization. There's one thing that I've heard from recruiters is that you all hate writing job descriptions, and it makes sense, right? Like, you know, trying to figure out what the hiring manager wants and how to actually describe this role is really tedious. Well, why not use all of this language that we're capturing from candidates about how to describe their experience and use that to help you describe what it is that you're looking for. Also offering semantic insights to be able to help larger companies benchmark and attract higher fit talent. And then also, you know, I'm imagining a like an exclusivity period, right, where you partner, where recruiters or enterprise companies would partner with Soaria to fill roles. You'd give us 72 hours early access to a role. We go into our platform and we provide a cohort of highly qualified, high fit candidates directly to you, and hopefully reduce your time to hire to almost nothing. You know, by providing you an actual a sizable portion of a qualified hiring funnel. We can also offer domain-specific data set licensing to foundational LLM providers, think tanks, research labs, etc. And then also offer a freemium model for candidates. So offer some different upgrades that can help down funnel during the application funnel. You know, and really what we're talking about building is providing as 10x recruiters, right? You all are already spending tens of thousands of dollars a year per seat to try and filter noise. And Soaria offers fewer but higher fit candidates for a fraction of that. And every new hire makes the process better. And this is why I think we win. So I've talked with multiple investors and hiring leaders who agree in the thesis, who believe in the thesis. I was chatting with David Hammond, who's co-founder of Underdog Labs, which is a wildly successful VC fund, who said verbatim, I think this is a really smart thesis. I think the market's going to move this way. You just need to be able to show that you're getting there first, which is, I think, the point of free seat. You know, and so, you know, we're building out the infrastructure that others are going to need to wind up fundamentally refactoring to try and reach. And the data model is built for compounding behavioral signal, not just static profile matching. And so, you know, once we get going, it'll provide a lead that no one else in the market will really be able to catch, because it compounds with every interaction. And the whole platform is really built with these rapid feedback loops in mind. And so, yeah, this is also candidate first proprietary data that others won't be able to scrape for or be able to buy. And so I think in our case, signal is going to compound faster than product adoption. So we'll win on time to intelligence. So here's the ask. Right now, we've raised $20,000 to date. We're raising a 550K safe at a $6 million cap as an angel bridge. This is to harden the proven prototype into an automated alpha product. I'm open to having this be an actual priced round, depending on investor appetite. So that's the conversation that we can have if interested. I would imagine just having that 4 to 6 mil cap just be a priced round. I just want to avoid calling it a pre-seed, because when we actually go to raise the larger round, I don't want it to be a seed and then have all of these growth and revenue and all of these adoption metrics and whatnot. Like, I'm trying to keep it at pre-seed expectations. But that allows me to be able to hire a couple of engineers and a business development rep to help with early distribution, which I have in the appendix. If we want to lean in there, I can go into a little bit more about distribution. Specific ask for Syelo, of course, I would love to partner with you. I would love some money, but also too, I feel like one of the things that really resonated with me that Simon and Sabrina both said was that the whole reason why Syelo Ventures came about in the first place was because you wanted to find more opportunities to be able to get in at the ground floor and design the tools that are going to make your lives easier. And that is where I feel like the biggest win here, where the most potential is here. I don't actually have a demo of the recruiter side of this. I focused on the candidate side to try and get it live so we can get people using it, and it was harder than I thought it was going to be. And there's some issues with it that I've been working through, which I'll show you. But I want your input on what exactly that looks like. Like, what do you look for when optimizing a resume? What makes a good resume? Is there consensus among recruiters? Like, that's conversations that we can have. I would also love to partner with you to actually build out what the recruiter side of this platform looks like, what you find really valuable, what you don't, and then partner for early distribution. So that way, maybe we can help you with some hires and prove out that this model works. And then, yeah, when we get to pre-seed, we'll hire a growth lead and then hire a full stack engineer. A little bit about me. Two-time early unicorn employee. I've got nearly a decade of early stage startup experience. Varsity Tutors and Shift actually went on to become unicorns, $1 billion plus IPOs. I've been employee number 1, where I show up to the CEO's house and he's still in the shower. I've been employee number 33. I've been employee number 34. I also led product at Great Expectations. I led them through a $40 million Series B. I was their first product hire. I built Great Expectations open source into the world's largest data quality platform, so I know data. I also owned a $5.1 billion a year dynamic pricing platform at Ticketmaster called PriceMaster. I'm sorry, I'm at least somewhat responsible for dynamic pricing on Ticketmaster. I usually don't lead with that, but it does offer a sense of scale. It handles about more than 500 million transactions a year and led some really big initiatives. I know, I'm sorry, it's brutal. I couldn't imagine. I was there for the Beyonce on sale. I was there for the Taylor Swift on sale. Yeah, I'm sorry. For the Oasis on sale. Yeah, I was behind the scenes on all of that. And I've also built Soaria's entire platform solo. Yeah, I don't have an answer for that. Sorry, I don't have any hidden secrets on how to game Ticketmaster's system. I just used to work there. But yeah, I also built Soaria's entire platform solo using AI native development tools. I've been using Lovable. I've been using Claude Code, Vercel, Cursor, and I said Claude Code. And it's been complicated, but it's been a lot of fun. It's been a learning experience. And we also have an advisory bench who also believes in the mission. So Eric Emmenheiser, that's who actually introduced me to Simon, who introduced me to Sabrina. Eric was a former co-founding partner at JobBot, just recently broke off with his partner Drew to found TrueSeek. Eric invested $20,000 of his own money back in September when this was just a Python script and a Replit instance, and has been our #1 cheerleader since day one. Alex was my lead architect at Great Expectations. Alex did his SCD in computer science at MIT Media Lab. Literally graduated the year that I was born, back in 1988. The dude has been at the cutting edge of machine learning for the last 40 years. I love Alex. He is by far one of the most humble and brilliant people I've ever worked with. Extremely accomplished ML researcher and staff ML engineer. Has been consistently getting papers published about the bleeding edge of machine learning right now. Danny Schlarman, he's a staff recruiter at Ava Labs, which is an A16Z Portco, another recruiting leader who's really said if this was on the market today, he would buy it. And then Kenny was my boss's boss at Shift almost 15 years ago. He is a startup advisor at a number of different places, UCLA, MBA. He was early. I heard that concert was amazing. He was one of Uber's first territory leads. And so, he also knows what it's like to scale early stage companies. I would secretly like Kenny to be my COO when we get to that point. He's been a wealth of support and help here as well. So I've got a really solid team behind me. And yeah, that's it. This is the hiring experience we all deserve. Hiring is broken right now, but it doesn't have to be like this. And I think I have something that works. Like I mentioned before, I can jump into some recommendations. I can talk into early distribution. I can talk into monetization and stuff. But I guess I'll just pause there and I'll pause there for reactions, questions. What are y'all thinking?
And Spencer, you're thinking of doing are you going to do a quick demo of just the consumer or the front end for the customer, or the candidate?
Yeah.
So we can see how it operates a little bit. Yeah, if you don't mind, before we jump into questions, unless someone has something burning, I'd love to see it.
Sure. Yeah, give me just a second. So it's janky. Right now this is the app. So there'll be a career hub that's like a snapshot section. I'm just not done building it yet. There's also a career profile where you'll be able to see like your skills and everything, and how you match up on the current market and whatnot. You'll be able on the application funnel. This is in progress of being built. It's not deployed yet, but this is where you'll be able to track your application funnel, and you'll be able to come back and request edits for a resume or chat with Soaria's LLM to ask questions. Like maybe you get to an application and it's asking you like, how would you describe such and such? And so you want to come to Soaria. I'd rather you come to Soaria to ask that question because we have full context about your professional background and all of your case studies and all of what you've done. We're in the best position to be able to answer that question for you rather than just going to ChatGPT and getting a generic answer. So you'll be able to do that there as well. And then data and insights. I come from a data quality background, data transparency. No black boxes is a core tenet for me. It's something I believe very passionately about. So we want to be able to be really clear with people about what data is what data are being captured, how it's being used, and make all of that really, really clear and upfront for people. So here, you can have like different focus areas. So like this one is just platform PM. Excuse me. Oh my God, I'm so sorry. This one is hybrid. So if you wanted to have look at just remote roles, or if you want to look at hybrid, I miss working in an office and being around people. Being a solo founder is lonely. I would love to be in an office. Not every day, a couple of days. So I have that option here. And then the way that this is supposed to work is that the system is supposed to update your job feed every 15 minutes when you're on the roll, because people have first mover advantage for applications. So the thesis is that as soon as a role gets posted by a company, I want it to show up here at the top of somebody's feed, and I want them to apply for it. The true growth levers here are first apply velocity. So how often does a user come and apply for a role within 15 minutes of it being posted? And then how often do those applications convert to interviews? I figure that if we recommend the right job and we do the right resume optimization and someone applies as soon as the role gets posted, that provides them the best opportunity to get selected for an interview. More interview conversions, builds more user trust, it drives more engagement. So that's sort of the growth lever there. You click on, sorry, go ahead.
Real quick, sorry if I missed this.
Yeah.
Where are you going to be pulling from in terms of job postings?
Yeah. So right now we are using an API service that's pulling from all of the aggregate boards. So LinkedIn, Indeed, I think LinkedIn, Indeed, and Built-in. And then it also has full ATS integrations as well. So it's integrated with Greenhouse, with Lever, Ashby, ICIMS, Workday. We are going to need, that's a great question. I've burned through 10% of my tokens for the month already, and I haven't even onboarded anyone. And that was almost $200 a month. So that's not going to be scalable. So we're going to need to do direct ATS integrations. We're going to start with Greenhouse because, as I'm sure you may or may not know, Greenhouse has actually built a candidate first portal. So I believe that data already exists. We just need to reach out to them and ask them if they're open to letting us hook into that. That's sort of the first big problem to tackle. Greenhouse also has Greenhouse also has a fully public jobs API that we can pull from. That's actually what I built the first prototype on, and it works. So I'm going to add that to the mix also too. And then we'll also pay for developer licenses as well to integrate with all the other ATSs. So TLDR, right now we're using a service that is more expensive than it should be. And the next step is going to be to integrate with these ATS systems directly. So that way we'll be able to do that 15-minute query a lot more often. Does that answer your question a lot more reliably?
Yes.
Cool. So you'll click apply. It says, why it's a good match. It shows the baseline resume that I uploaded, that it built for me. It's got all of my skill flags here. I can drop down and read the full job description here. This is janky. I'll be honest, I'm actually really embarrassed about how this looks. This is nothing how I actually wanted it to look. But if you're not embarrassed by the first version of the product, then you waited too long. Here's where the system goes through and shows why it may, we want to be able to track the delta between the resume optimizations. Here's what it was, here's what we changed it to, here's why. So we can start understanding, were those optimizations the right ones, or are there better optimizations that are more likely to lead to an interview? I can come down here. I'm supposed to be able to type here and have a conversation with an LLM, specifically Gemini, to be able to talk about this role and the resume optimizations. It's not working the way that it's supposed to, so that's something else I need to fix. But once you get a version that you like, you click download resume. It downloads the resume version to your device. It does not look good. I actually, it's not going to share. I'm sorry. It's janky. It's not following the format that it's supposed to, but it's okay. But then you also click open application here, and it actually takes you directly to the job posting on the company website, if it ever loads. Live demos, am I right? Let's try this one. See, and it actually takes you directly to here. And so then you would come in here, you would click apply now. You'll fill this out. I'm also going to build a Chrome extension that will do this automatically for people. This will also allow us to be able to more consistently measure whether or not somebody actually applied for the role that we sent them to, and whether or not they're actually using the resume version that we provided with them. I don't want them to take our resume version and then go to their uncle's brother's cousin and ask them what they think about the resume, and then make changes and then upload that and use that, and then us make decisions about whether or not that resume version worked. I want them to use the version that we gave them so we can see if it works or not. And then when it comes back, the next time you come back to the product, next time you come back to the platform, it'll ask you, actually here, let's do this. It actually asked me if I applied for that job. So I can say, no, not yet. And it does that every time. And then you'll be able to track this in the applications. And that's it. That's the demo. That's what I've got so far. What other questions do we have?
I guess right now, Spencer, and I think maybe so we can kind of formulate our questions a bit better. have you been thinking so far in terms of the recruiter side of it? Like, what would that look like? What would our access be? How would we use it?
Yeah. So the way that I envision the recruiter side being is that much like here, I'll go back to, I should just leave the screen share up. So much like, and I'm sorry, I very much intended on having a version of the recruiters, like a Wizard of Oz demo experience created. As I'm sure you can imagine, or maybe not, this wound up being so complicated under the hood that I've been working on this for basically since we chatted, Sabrina, and it's still not quite working the way that I want it to. It's part of the reason why I'm fundraising. This would be a lot easier with an engineer, but yeah, the real core part of the experience is going to be two pieces here, right? So if you can imagine a very similar sort of portal, and then one of these tabs would be like a job description optimization API, where you would come in and you would talk to Soaria's model, and you basically say like, hey, you'd let the model know. It's very conversational. You can use voice if you want to as well, but you could come in and say, hey, excuse me, we've got a job rec opening for a senior product manager role for platform. This is what and then Soaria would be like, all right, cool, yeah, awesome. You know, what are you looking for? What does the hiring manager want to see? What are we thinking? And then you'll walk through, you know, this is the amount of experience that they're looking for. This is the pay band for it. These are the skills that we're looking for. You know, if you have been working with the platform for a certain amount of time, or if we already have a profile on file for the company, which I would hope at a certain point that we do, we'll also be able to suggest like cultural signals, like, hey, it seems like you know, roles at your company typically look for these sorts of things, these sorts of personality traits, these sorts of professional markers, so to speak, and it'll actually help you. It'll actually suggest, much like the resume optimization that you saw, it'll recommend a job description. And then provide you an opportunity to be able to offer some feedback, ask some questions, request some changes and whatnot. And then much like this process here, you know, actually launch the role and then measure your funnel and see how well that this funnel is performing, be able to have metrics around like, is this job description version that you're doing yielding the candidate pipeline that you're looking for? Do we need to make changes to it? Do we need to shift some language? Do we need to describe it a different way? You know, are we under market for what other companies are paying for a similar role? That sort of thing, like those sorts of insights. And then also to be able to partner with us for basically handpicked candidates for a role. So for that same role, right, you come to us and you let us know like, hey, we want to hire for this role. Here, once you build the job description and everything, Soaria will go into the candidate pool and find all of the people that we would rank as a high, you know, as like a 90% or like an 80% or higher. You set the threshold match for a role. And we pre-vet them and then hand deliver them to you. So no more waiting weeks and waiting through hundreds or thousands of applications, which, you know, 90%, 85%, 95% are going to be garbage or just like wildly unqualified. You know, and instead have 20 or 30 candidates delivered directly to you that are actually a high fit for what you're looking for. And hopefully reduce your time to hire. Those are the two main aspects of the recruiter side platform that I've envisioned, but I definitely want to partner with you all on like, what exactly does that look like? Does that add value? How do we actually implement that? And see what that actually looks like in practice.
Quick question as well with reference to that. Excuse me. So it sounds like when candidates upload their resume to be matched with jobs, it's also being added to the Soaria kind of database that you're going to be able to access in the future to match things like that. Yep. That's definitely interesting. I would, depending on how much data gets in there, I would recommend probably giving access to recruiters so they can match their jobs, opposed to having to use the middle person. That can be a bit challenging, opposed to the pre-vetting that can be a premium service. But okay, I was just curious if that's how that worked. If they're adding to the database.
No, absolutely. Yeah, there's going to be a database. So here, I'll show you as well. I'm still screen sharing, right? So the wonders of technology right now, it's wild. So if we go to the database here, right, like we are capturing a lot of information, and this is just the data model that I've thought of right now. Of course, thank you so much, Bakoya. This is just what we thought about so far, right? We can add more lenses to be able to view this from. But yeah, the idea is to build the data model as such from the very beginning, that we take a snapshot of all of as many different perspectives of how this can work that we can think of. And then whenever we start getting to the point where we're building our own ML models and whatnot, we can look and start training against what we think is actually useful, and what we think will be the greatest indicator of fit. You know, because the goal is to reduce time to hire, reduce the job search timeline for candidates, and then also reduce your time to hire, while also ensuring that you're getting the best fit, the best possible fit candidate for the role as well.
So that makes sense. And resumes are becoming increasingly not super helpful on their own.
Yep.
Any plans to do some type of API plugins with code repositories like GitHub or things like that to match up coding's quality?
Yeah, absolutely. I just want to be careful about that as well, though, because what was it? The company TripleByte or Eightfold. There was a candidate side hiring platform about 10 years ago that tried to do something similar, where they had coding tests or something as part of the onboarding process, and they wound up struggling with adoption because people didn't want to engage. It was adding too much friction to the application process.
Right.
So I think, but I think with the prevalence of Claude Code and whatnot, being what it is, I think there's definitely something there to be able to do skill vetting.
Right. And I would say, opposed to doing the coding tests or things like that, but if you're connecting to GitHub to verify contributions, the quality of the code that's in the contributions, number of things like that could be a pretty big indicator for technical talent, at least. That's
a great idea. Yeah, that's a great idea. I would love to do that. Any sort of skill vetting that we can do, I from the recruiter side, my goal really is to empower you all to be able to just focus on, back in the early days of tech, 15 years ago or whatever, it was about, the recruiter's role was really about wooing the best quality candidates to your company versus your competition. And somehow we got away from that. And I feel like Soaria, part of my goal with the recruiter side of Soaria is to get back to that place where we handle finding fit, and you don't have to worry about it, and you can focus more on really guiding your favorite candidates who you feel the most excited about, who you feel like are going to be the most successful in your company, and selling them on joining your company instead of another, and then making sure that they stay.
Love that idea.
Yeah. What else we got?
How do you plan on driving a large volume of candidates or applicants to see it?
It's a great question. So targeted pilots. So this is part of why I want to hire a biz dev rep. Is because I want to partner with boot camps, alumni programs, professional upskilling networks, anywhere where job placement metrics are the key success metric, and partner with them for initial pilots. And the reason being is that, imagine if we partnered with University of Washington's Human-Centered Design and Engineering Master's Program, right? we partner with them. These are people who have paid tens of thousands of dollars for professional development or for their next stage in their career. And they are financially incentivized and motivated to find their next role and really engage. So by partnering with them, this brings us regular, steady cohorts of active, engaged job seekers who are motivated. These are who I would consider to be like more likely to be power users, who will be able to generate substantial use and consistent usage from day one. And then this also allows us to also be able to sort of manage the influx, right? Like I don't want to grow too big during this stage. I want to really have, my goal is really 200 to 300 concurrent active users at any given time on the platform. That should be able to generate the volume of labeled data that I really want to see to be able to move to the next level of our machine learning roadmap without overwhelming the infrastructure that we have. So I think this is how we do it. And then for distribution on the recruiter side, it would be partnering with you all. I mean, Syelo is the largest collection of hiring leaders, I think, on the planet, or at least in the US, right? Like there's the distribution path right there. Like I would love to partner with you all to help you place a couple of roles and see how well. I think you're the best also. But help you hire for some roles and see if we can get your time to hire down, but your quality of candidate up. So.
Thanks.
Of course. What else we got?
Hey, Spencer, I also, just with regards to time, want to make sure you have some time to ask our group questions as well. So any questions that you had in top of mind for us? Yeah,
of course. I think the big one is does this resonate? Like, does this jive with what y'all are seeing? Does the problem statement resonate? Awesome. Thank you, Flo.
I would say the problem statement definitely resonates. We get a lot of applicants. Fit and matching is becoming increasingly critical, and speeding up that process in any way is definitely something that would add value to my process.
Yeah, I see the fit there. It's I guess the hard part right now, Spencer, is seeing how it's going to operate how do we actually, like, other than how you worded it, seeing it actually play out on how you're going to run it from a recruiting side will be helpful. I also get that it's early on, so no harm, no foul. But I think there's definitely a need for it. It's just now, how is it actually going to operationalize?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think, so I'll give you a great example of that, Steve. One of the first big problems that I was wrestling with, it took me 3 or 4 days to really wrestle with this, was how do we know someone actually applied, and then how we know they got invited to an interview? How do we know? Like, we can't there's only a couple of ways that we can know. We either read people's emails, which is incredibly invasive. We ask them really politely if they did or not, or we integrate directly with ATSs. And I originally went with view emails, as long as we don't store it or anything and make it explicit up front, maybe. But I also that it turns out that rightfully so, that's a restricted scope for Google's Gmail integration, which has a whole approval process, which I'm not confident that will pass. But there's also like the privacy concerns around that, and that's not really the direction that I really want to go in. And I don't want anything that creates a sense of doubt, and so I scrapped that. And then it's either like the method that you saw with like, hey, did you apply for this? Did you get an interview or whatever, which is okay in the manual step that we're in right now, but we need something a lot more scalable. And so that's how I landed on doing the ATS integrations. The problem is that no ATS has a candidate facing product. And so aside from Greenhouse, which has the candidate side portal, which makes me feel like they see the same problem and they're trying to solve it in their own way, I feel pretty optimistic that they'll go for this if I can get in the room with them. But if we're able to do that, now we have the first candidate side ATS integration in existence, at least in the US market. And that could be absolutely massive. I also think that provides something really powerful on the recruiting side, which because we'll be directly tapped into your candidate funnel for the ATS platform that your company uses, right? So we'll be able to measure right along with you how effectively we're doing our job, so to speak, and what opportunity there is for improvement. And so, I think that's probably the first really big problem to solve, but I think it's solving it unlocks a whole world of possibilities that, I think it's going to be hard to try to figure out what that looks like until we start building it and start working through it together. Cool. What else we got? Oh, questions for me. Sorry. Yeah, I think how does what I've been talking about differentiate from what you've seen so far? Because I see what people are raising on, stuff like Twill and Juicebox and whatnot. But like, what has your experience been with what you've seen pitched and what you've used in your day-to-day jobs? Like, how does it compare? What does it look like? What does the landscape look like right now?
I actually, and I think that's one of the reasons I was like pretty excited about this. I think your story resonates a bit more, like not necessarily the problem set, because I think everybody's, kind of trying to solve similar problems. I think it's more like the way that you sell it is a bit different, right? It's more like, listen, I've been there. I've been in this job search. I know it sucks. This is like what I ran into. This is what I would have wanted. I think a lot of the tools we see are kind of more focused on like, how do they scale really quickly? This is a little bit more, I would say, like custom. It's a more, I don't know how to explain it. I think just like an intimate problem that everybody has gone through and is going to probably continue to go through. It's less of like answering that, and I'll shut up after this. But I'm also wondering, because we've been seeing a lot of stuff on like fraud lately. That's been a big topic in our community and just recruiting. How are you going to prevent that from happening on the candidate side, right? Like because it is like something we run into where like they can customize their resumes, they can do all these things. So that's I think that's a concern that we all have.
Yeah, absolutely. No, it's a great question. So I want to react to the personal part of it. It's deeply personal for me. My mom is a god tier CDS manager, from like an IT manager product standpoint, right? Like, she should really be holding a staff role at this point. She interviewed for 2 full years and wasn't able to land something, and even had a hard time finding interviews. I have so many of my friends and family who are unemployed right now, who have been on 6-month long or longer job searches. It's worse now than it's ever been. And I find that so deeply frustrating because I don't feel like it needs to be this way. And I don't see anybody solving the problem that actually exists, I feel like. And I found that to be really frustrating. So I decided to do something about it. So I'm glad that comes through, because this is important to me. This is deeply important to me. And I want to help, and I think this could help. So that aside, combating fraud, it's a real thing. I think I'll be honest. So, I mean, there's a couple of ways. First of all, during the manual process of this, I'm manually vetting everybody. So I like to think that I can tell whether or not somebody is being disingenuous or not. But I would also say too that, that's part of where we come into what I forget who asked the question before about like, how do you actually validate skills and stuff like that? Like having some some processes and some integrations and some tools in place to be able to validate that what someone is claiming to have done is real, and the skills that they have are real. And they're not just, it's not just really good, like fake it till you make it, so to speak. Or just outright fraud. I think, but I also think too that, like, honestly, I think a certain amount of that fraud comes from a place of desperation. I don't think it's malicious. I think the modern job search has created this sense of desperation among job seekers, where people feel like they have to do this in order to be able to get an opportunity. And so, I think that by creating a platform that makes people feel confident that they can actually find their next opportunity based on merit. Thank you, Steve. I think that will naturally start weeding out how often this actually happens. Thanks, James. Take care. I think it'll start weeding out how often this happens. Obviously, we need to have something a little bit more standardized in place. There's a couple of different ways that I think we could do that. Thank you, Cassandra. I think there's a couple of different ways that we can do that. I think a lot of it is going to be partnering with SMEs, maybe SMEs for different roles, or experienced hiring managers for different roles, to be able to like vet what a standard looks like. And then as part of the onboarding process, we start doing small things here and there to like validate someone's experience and sort of like start weeding out what's disingenuous and what's real. But I don't know exactly how we go about doing that yet. I haven't quite crossed that bridge. So it's definitely front of mind, though. It's definitely important to think about.
Yeah, I do think the recruiters too, like when you kind of flip over to the recruiting platform, we'll be able to kind of give you some more insight on what we're seeing.
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
Awesome. I know a bunch of people had to jump off, but
it's okay.
Any follow-up questions or anything anybody wants to add? Awesome. Oh, go ahead, Mary.
Oh no, I was just saying no, but thank you so much. This is super interesting.
Cool. Thank you so much, Mary, and thank you for again. I know that y'all are crazy busy, and it's lunchtime for many people, or at least you had a gap. So thank you for being so generous with your time. I really appreciate it, and yeah, hopefully we find ourselves working together here soon.
Awesome. Thanks, Spencer. I will share the recording with our broader group. We also share a form that we gather some feedback and like just capture some questions and feedback from the group. So I'll get all the information for you and we'll share it moving forward, but really appreciate you joining and presenting today.
Of course, absolutely. And yeah, it's my pleasure. And I love talking to recruiting and hiring people about this, like I mentioned, because I feel like you all get it and I don't have to validate the problem as much. How long do you think it'll take what's that timeline typically look like, Sabrina?
So we will typically gather at the end of the month and kind of just go through all the silo takes that we've seen with our venture partner group. So it'll be towards the end of the month that we'll be able to get back to you. But in the meantime, if I'm getting any feedback, I'll share what I am getting in real time.
That sounds awesome. Thank you so much, Sabrina. And thank you so much, everyone else. I really appreciate y'all coming. Yeah, you too. Take care.
Thanks, Spencer. Bye, everyone.
Bye.